in Sudan. Then a prolonged closure of the borders will also limit availability of essential imported items, items such as wheat and wheat flour, which means that access to food is going to be limited. And when access to food is limited, then food insecurity increases. Lastly, there is a fear that early warning communication and the monitoring and the evaluation will be limited because people will not be allowed to congregate in the coming days. So there will be no trainings, no barazas for bringing people to tell them about the early warning messages. Mitigation, prioritization of locust control operations and ensuring that these operations continue despite the COVID restrictions, and that there will be they will target control to hotspots and do clustered control using both aerial and vehicle mounted control methods. These two methods involve fewer people, so they can go ahead in the midst of COVID. FAO submitted here that there is a prediction that locusts might migrate to West Africa through Sudan, and that if Sudan can control locusts effectively, then that risk of them going to the rest of Africa, in West Africa, may be minimized. Tanzania, there are currently some border closures with the neighbors, and it's happening at the time when harvesting is happening. And there is fear that this will affect export and marketing of produce, yet they were expecting above average produce. In Kenya, Kenya seems to be ahead of these challenges. The agro inputs have already been procured, and there are plans to distribute these to farmers on time. There is a national COVID pandemic multi-agency command center. This is the one that manages all issues related to COVID, but on the other hand, also it advises and gives guidelines on control of desert locusts. This command center has classified essential goods and essential services in Kenya, and it has provided permits to move, especially for the desert locust control teams. So they believe that desert locust control will not be disrupted. They have also developed protocols and guidelines for people who are involved in food processing and also provision of food through restaurants. So these are allowed to operate, and it's believed that food security should not be a problem because of COVID. They have procured or put in place the best vehicles and aircrafts and personnel and all tools that are necessary for surveillance, monitoring, and control of the desert locusts. And they have also allowed the use of drones for desert locust monitoring. And they will start desert locust impact assessment this week, Wednesday. So they feel that really desert locust is not going to be a big problem this coming season. In Ethiopia, July will be the harvesting time for crops planted during MAM, and they use mostly mechanization.
Jasper, you have 1 minute.
Okay, I was cheated in the morning. Please don't cheat me this time around. So Ethiopia also has an ongoing identification exercise for potential and desert locust invaded areas, and they are going to cluster them, and they will control them based on the clusters. They will use mostly helicopters and drones for surveillance, and the control will be mostly by vehicles, vehicle-mounted sprayers, and by aircrafts. In Rwanda, this is season B. The current forecast is for it's during the current forecast that season B starts, and since it is indicated to be above average, this is very good for a start of season B. However, this is also the time when season A crops are harvested, and that means that we could have challenges of post-harvest losses. When we have good rains during the JJJS, no, sorry about that. Most of the agriculture activities in Rwanda have not been disrupted by COVID, despite all the guidelines and measures being taken. Lastly, in Uganda, the season is mainly for the northern parts of the country, but the southern, eastern, and the central parts, they will be harvesting. And it shows that most of these areas will have enhanced rains, and harvesting during enhanced rains is not good. However, the
Oscar, your
positives
time is up.
outweigh the
Please
negatives.
wrap up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jasper. The water sector is ready. That presentation will be given by Willis Ochieng. Willis Ochieng, if you're ready, you can load your presentation and begin.
Yes, can I load it from my side, or?
Yes, you can load it from your side, yes. And any sector who's ready to go next, please send me a message privately so we can get you ready. Willis, you have the floor.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm just trying to load the presentation. So I don't know, are we able to see it?
Yes.
Okay. So let me, okay, fine. So I'm going to present on behalf of water and energy sector. And to start with, those are the participants which we had during the sectoral discussions, 21 in number from various countries. And quickly, I'll just go to the main issues discussed during the sectoral discussions. So our discussion is based on a basin by basin. And to start with, I'll start with the implication on water-related sectors and the proposed mitigation measures of Kagera. And this is covering Burundi, Rwanda, and parts of Tanzania, whereby the forecast is a climatology, which means there's nothing much being expected. And the implication also in this area, there's no much serious implication expected since the season is generally dry. The next one is Awash in Ethiopia, where above average rainfall is forecasted. And the implication of this is above average inflows. And this is meaning that a lot of water may be expected in the rivers in this basin. And therefore, the proposed mitigations are to create awareness on flood risk, and also in close coordination with the DRMC and regional authorities in case of any floods which may affect the people in that basin. The next one is Upper and Lower Blue Nile. This one is affecting Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Sudan. Here, enhanced rainfall is expected in the upper area, and on the downstream, we expect the normal rainfall in the area. The implications are above average flows, which are good for hydropower, are expected, and also for irrigation downstream. There's also a risk of flooding, and also groundwater recharge is also expected in these basins. So the mitigation measures are awareness campaign on flood risk, and also close coordination with the DRMC authorities and also the regional authorities. The next one is Juba Shebele, which is affecting Ethiopia and Somali. So here, enhanced rainfall in the upstream is expected, but now the downstream climatology is expected. So the implication here is going to be enhanced flows in the area, and also the current flooding situation may also continue. The proposed mitigation measures are sustained awareness on flood risk and also close coordination with the DRM authorities. Long-term measures such as reservoirs and water harvesting structures are also proposed to try and address the situation. The next one is Ogaden, Dahor, and Nugal basins, which are affecting Ethiopia and Somalia. Here, enhanced rainfall is forecasted. And the implication here is that we are expecting just normally dry season and maybe flash floods in some areas in case we receive enhanced rainfall in some areas which may be unusual. Then the mitigation measure here is awareness campaign on flood risk, because there are areas which we may expect just enhanced rainfall, and the rainfall intensity may be higher and may cause even some floods in some regions when the floods are not expected. Then the next one is White Nile, covering South Sudan and Sudan. So in the White Nile, enhanced rainfall is expected, and the implication is above average inflows, above average flows, which may cause floods and also the water supply stations. The mitigation measures include awareness campaign on flood risk, and also this should be done in close coordination with the DRM authorities. Then northwest of Sudan, where also enhanced rainfall is expected,
Willis, you have about 2 minutes, so start wrapping up, please.
Seems Willis is out of network. Can you hear Willis?
We lost Willis, I believe, but Health, Jameson, I think is ready. Well, hopefully Willis can have his 2 minutes at the end, but.
Or if there is somebody from his group who can wrap up, it will be great.
Harry. Okay, Harry, if admin please enable Harry from ICPAC to wrap up.
Okay,
please.
give me a second. Give me a second to enable Harry.
Okay.
Yeah. So Harry is enabled. He can go ahead. Harry can go ahead if he's ready.
Okay. Sorry. Like the Willis were talking about the northwest part of Sudan, where the enhanced rainfall is expected, and the flash floods and the groundwater recharge are the two aspects which may be occurring during this coming season. And then awareness campaign on flood risk, close coordination with the DRM authorities is what is expected as part of the mitigation measures. The next one is about Tana, Ati, and Devaso Negro Basin in Kenya, where enhanced rainfall is expected in the upstream area and then normal rainfall in the downstream. And the above average flows and good hydropower generation is expected, and good irrigation supplies to the crops also, and then risk of flooding in the downstream areas in case of release of water from the dams is what is anticipated. Proposed mitigation measure is sustained awareness on flood risk in downstream areas, and water harvesting structures is what is planned in the as mitigation measures in this basin. East Lake Victoria, Kenya, where above normal rainfall is expected in the forecast, and then sustained reservoir inflows leading to good hydropower production is what is anticipated. And then possibility of flooding and landslides in the western part of Kenya is anticipated. The measures for this is creating awareness on the flooding issues, and then repair to riverbank dikes if possible. And due to COVID-19, the sustained potable water supply to the communities which are affected due to COVID is mitigation measures which we have planned for the water sector. The Rift Valley lakes, especially in Ethiopia and Kenya, is enhanced rainfall, and above average inflows are expected into the lakes as well as the reservoirs, which can provide good hydropower generation, including the irrigation. And the risk of flooding in the downstream areas is what is anticipated in the Rift Valley. Sustained awareness on flood risk in the downstream areas is one of the mitigation measures what is planned in the Rift Valley. And then Lake Rukwa and Tanganyika, and then Rufiji and Ruvuma Basin in Tanzania, since it is not a rainy season in Tanzania, it's only the climatology which is expected. So the dry season and normal flows expected in this region, and no mitigation measures are planned. Similarly, in the northeast of Tanzania, also again climatology and dry season and normal flows are expected. And the East Lake Victoria and Lake Albert and Lake Yogo and Asawa sub-catchment, especially in Uganda, where enhanced rainfall is expected, and above average flows and flash floods, especially in the Lake Edward area, is anticipated in this season. And the landslides are expected in the Kyoga Basin area also. And then especially the floating islands which are reaching the hydropower dams is a major concern for this season. And sustained awareness on flood and landslide risks, and increased surveillance in the reservoirs to prevent the floating islands reaching the dam is one of the major mitigation measures which is anticipated. The West Lake Victoria, especially the Ugandan part, the enhanced rainfall and above average desert flows from Mam rains. And then because already the Lake Victoria is in increased water level conditions, and it may continue also because of the sustained enhanced rainfall in the coming season also. So sustained awareness on flood and landslide risks in the West Lake Victoria region also. Yeah, I'm also done with that. Yeah, I'm done with that.
Thank you so much, Harry. Next, we have James Sang. Please, James, you have 7 minutes, so please keep time. James, you have 7 minutes.
Okay. I'm trying to load the presentation. Good afternoon, everyone. For health sector in the region, we had 6 countries which participated, and ICPAC, that is Uganda, Somalia, Kenya, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Sudan. For Ethiopia, the impacts that hello, am I audible? Hello?
We can hear
go ahead. You are
okay. So for Ethiopia, malaria is likely to be enhanced in terms of transmission continuing from the current season of March, April, May. And also because of flooding and a lot of rainfall, there'll be likelihood of cholera or acute watery diarrhea. And for Ethiopia, the mitigation measures will include management and treatment of all malaria cases and any other cholera or whatever acute watery diarrhea that may arise. Active surveillance in consultation with local authorities related to COVID-19 measures to move around and collect data. And also key messages to the community about persistent sleeping under net for personal protection. Other issues might be flooding because of enhanced rainfall, which may prolong the transmission season for malaria and other vector-borne diseases. For Kenya, I'll summarize. I'll not go through all the points that is seen on the screen, but malaria is one of the key challenges that we're experiencing even now, and is likely to continue in the region that is the northwestern Kenya, around Turkana, Pokot, and parts of Baringo. Acute watery diarrhea is likely to be also a challenge in flooded areas. And also, flooding causing displacement of people will create vulnerability for many other diseases. So in terms of mitigation, prepositions of required treatments and diagnostic equipment, provision of preventive tools like mosquito nets and water treatment chemicals. Public education is key, and increasing awareness, access to healthcare services and provision of healthcare services. Of course, there will be need for alternative shelter and also strengthening the surveillance to monitor all diseases that are climate sensitive or influenced by climate. We are aware COVID-19 is a major challenge, and it's going to impact on access and provision of healthcare services due to lockdown, and that is likely to increase the prevalence and the incidence of other common diseases. For Rwanda, there will be increased incidence in malaria, especially in the eastern and southern provinces, and also increase of cases of schistosomiasis and intestinal worms, among other waterborne diseases. And IRS is one of the interventions, that is indoor residual spraying in all at-risk districts, improved supervision and case management, improved supply chain management of commodities, and avail commodities for deworming and schisto treatment in the areas that are affected. Of course, again, COVID is a major challenge in the region, same in Rwanda, and therefore they'll undertake some, they'll have difficulties in undertaking certain campaigns like deworming. In Somalia, malaria outbreaks will be expected especially in riverine areas. Pneumonia also among IDPs, because of flooding, many populations will be displaced and therefore are likely to expose to environmental factors and therefore suffer pneumonia. Measles outbreaks and cholera and acute watery diarrhea in flood-prone areas. Of course, strengthening of treatment services, prepositioning of supplies, preventive treatments and surveillance, and establishment of cholera centers will be the main mitigation measures for Somalia. For the Sudan, the diseases that are likely to be a challenge include malaria and diarrheal diseases, including typhoid and dysentery, hepatitis A and E, will be expected in the Central Sudan and Great Darfur and Kordofan. Again, strengthening services.
Less than 1 minute, please.
In the Northern Sudan, they'll be expected, because of high temperatures, there'll be issues to do with high temperatures that will affect meningitis and skin conditions. In Uganda, malaria is going to be a challenge in flooded areas, and also yellow fever is on the watch list, especially in the Western Nile region. And of course, AWDs or cholera and typhoid will also be a major challenge. Most of the mitigation measures will be around malaria control in terms of vector control using mass nets, doing IRS, and of course, undertaking disease surveillance for all the diseases and providing antimalarials and for prophylaxis and treatment. And of course, public awareness and education is key.
Okay,
and
time's
also
up.
Vaccination of yellow fever. Thank you. I think I'm done.
Okay, thank you so much, James, and thank you from the health sector. The chat is available for any questions or any additional comments that any group member may have. Caroline from the livestock sector is next. And if you can load your presentation, Caroline.
Okay. Have you unmuted me? Okay.
Yes, I
Good
believe
afternoon.
Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, let me just share my screen. Unfortunately, we lost quite a number of our James. Can you kindly exit your screen? Hello, admin, kindly help Mr. Sang to exit the screen sharing so that I can share, or can I?
Okay, it's off.
Thank you.
So you can try sharing now.
Okay. Unfortunately, we lost a number of our participants to other sectors during the breakout sessions. And so I don't have all the consolidated responses from each of the member states. Uganda was lost somewhere, Sudan and Djibouti. I had received feedback from Somalia, and we had Kenya and Ethiopia on board with us. I will prefer to present in this way because the slides are not yet formatted, so I will just go through. So Djibouti, this is actually their main rainy season. We've seen that they have good pastures, and if they get in some rains, they might be able to get the productivity up. And because the COVID lockdown is now officially off in Djibouti, this pastoral communities can also be able to sell their milk to the market. Also, because now the lockdown is over, the veterinary teams are also expected to be able to go back to the field to perform treatments and routine disease control and surveillance activities. In Ethiopia, expecting good rain in most of the country. Some areas that might receive below normal and or normal rainfall. So much of the activity is going to be around fodder production, vaccination, deworming, and disease control. Of course, in the places that will be hit by floods, some interventions in terms of providing of feed and medicine would be required there. So basically, that's the main task will be there. The challenges that they have now is with COVID. So it is essential that the PPEs be able to be provided to veterinary workers so that they are able to reach this community in spite of the COVID situation now. We have heard that it's been a challenge for them to be able to reach the communities because of COVID. But one of the recommendations that we give across the countries is perhaps that the veterinary services and those locals can also be enlisted as part of the essential services so that this can continue without with or without the COVID situation, because failure to do so will result in more losses in terms of livelihood for this community. In Ethiopia, the desert locust, I think, is reported in the Somali region. And yesterday we had some information about somewhere in Gambela region. So this is
Caroline, you're coming on and off. Please get near the mic. Some people are having struggles hearing you.
Okay, let me just check what could be the matter. Is that better?
Yes, yes.
But can you see my screen?
We can see your screen, yes.
Okay, all right. So, so the desert locust is still a threat in Ethiopia, and that needs to be looked into and addressed sufficiently. Kenya, we're expecting good pastures, but the challenge is in the eastern part of the country, which you've seen is going to go into the dry season. And so if that is coupled up with sorry, let me go through the positive first. Some pastures are there because there's some rain going on until now. So we expect the body conditions for the livestock to be good. And then of course, we're recommending that they can harvest and store for the dry season that might be coming later in the year. The impacts of COVID-19 on the market will still remain as it were in the first presentation that I made for MAM. And therefore, measures that can help alleviate this should also be instituted. For Somalia, they're expecting good pasture, of course, as a result of this ongoing rains and the flooding. But as the rains, we see they're going into the dry season, maybe that will change slightly depending on the intensity of the dry season. Then for the negative impacts, Djibouti, we're expecting a lot of pressure around the watering points because this coincides with the hottest season in Djibouti. So that is expected, and because of that convergence together in one area, that might lead to disease outbreaks, and therefore surveillance for disease and treatment and other mitigation that can help alleviate this for the communities is also recommended. For Kenya, as we have seen from the other sectors, the western part particularly is expecting to receive more continuous heavy rains. So the flooding is expected to continue, the mudslides and the upsurge of disease, especially the vector-borne diseases, is expected to continue. And also the internal parasites also expected to continue. For the eastern part, northeastern part, as the rains subside, the rate of regeneration of pasture will be slowed. And this, if you couple that with what we are seeing in terms of desert locust, this might be a threat to the pasture in that area. And so the recommendation is that the desert locust control actions should be scaled up. The monitoring and the surveillance should continue so that whatever pasture that is regenerating now due to the rains is not lost to the desert locust. Of course, because of the flooding, regular flood alerts, like we have seen in the past few months, should also be encouraged. And of course, because of the flooding, again, a heightened surveillance of the Rift Valley fever should also be done in terms of surveillance within the sentinel heads. And this, not only for Kenya, it cuts across all the countries within the region that are going to receive above normal rainfall. Disease and vector control should also be scaled up. And of course, that one for the desert locust. For Somalia.
Your time is up.
Okay, just a minute, I think I'm about done. For Somalia, disease outbreaks expected and desert locust, again, the interventions remain like we have made for Kenya. For Sudan, we're expecting increased animal movements to Darfur. Conflicts due to these movements are very likely. Possibility of REVF, as I've mentioned. And so the measures that we are recommending there is to vaccinate against transboundary animal diseases, and then get the routes and the maps ready for the movement, and enhance the surveillance of these diseases and vector control. And of course, in the areas that will get rains, like we're seeing in Gezira here, Khartoum and Sennar, water harvesting and management is actually recommended. I will input what we'll get from our Ugandan colleague because he was taken to agriculture, and then we'll be able to share this once we have consolidated that and polished it out. That will be it for now. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, livestock sector as well. If there are any comments that were not included, please make use of the chat. DRM, I think, is next. Dr. Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed.
Yes, thank you very much. Let me share my screen and I'll start. I think, sorry, we have been managing a crisis or a disaster. Two of our reporters have been disconnected partly. So this is our presentation now. For Sudan, the implications are, I think heavy rains are expected over western and central parts of Sudan. As more people depend on agriculture and pasture or pastoralism in general, this forecast definitely would have a negative impact in terms of overflooding of cropping areas, as well as affecting the pastoral communities. COVID-19 will definitely complicate the disaster risk reduction operation in the country. And towards that, the measures identified includes activation of coordination mechanisms in the federal and state level, use of multi-sectoral approach. They have that platform already at national level, preparation of contingency plans and preparing food, pre-positioning food and non-food items or humanitarian assistance to those areas which are expected to be affected. For South Sudan, the implications are particularly the southeastern part of South Sudan is expected to receive very enhanced rain. which might turn into a flooding, both flash and riverine floods, and there needs to be a precaution taken there. Feeder roads also will be affected. This only calls for repositioning of food and non-food items. Challenges to community access to medical care might also be an issue in South Sudan, as movements would be restricted due to the impacts on the roads. The urban side of it, particularly in Juba, expects flash floods also based on the forecast. High level of vulnerabilities due to rain, especially with those who were already displaced last year. Then the situation would get worse. Food insecurity is also expected to rise in the country because of these multi-layer vulnerabilities starting from last year. Heavy or high level of vulnerability again throughout the country because of several factors, including disasters, conflicts, so on and so forth. There is a high level committee for COVID, which can also be used as a platform to address other challenges. Coordination with partners, including the NGOs, also need to be strengthened. Continuation with monitoring throughout the meteorological department is again what they are going to do. Response and recovery coordinators will also be deployed. Were deployed last month, and they will keep on sharing information from the ground. They have a bulletin, a multi-hazard bulletin, and this will also need to be updated. They use media houses to send out flood risk messages. They have already requested humanitarian partners to include the impacts of COVID or the nexus between COVID and the hazards already impending. Preparations for contingency plans is still ongoing, and mapping those areas at high risk is also very important to inform preparedness and response plans. Again, encourage communities with the city to put passage or drainage ways open before the rain starts. For Ethiopia, particularly southwestern parts of Ethiopia, floods are expected according to the forecast. Already some 400,000 people are affected currently. Over 250,000 are displaced. Now, this enhanced rains might further aggravate this problem due to flooding and landslides and so on and so forth. Particularly from the desert locust point of view, these heavy rainfalls might have a positive and negative, implications. In the positive note, they might have, washed away those breeding grounds, minimizing the impacts of, the eggs to be hatched and hoppers to be, invading again. On the other side, since the vegetation is going to grow more, the food might attract again, more locusts to invade. So there will be again a pasture and feed for animals distribution in the country. With COVID, again, they have already put in place a contingency plan, and according to this plan, some 50 million people might be affected by COVID. So far, about 117 are confirmed cases in Ethiopia. Preparing early warning bulletins, advisory to different stakeholders, going to revising the humanitarian plan where necessary, and downscaling, particularly this regional forecast into national forecast by National Meteorological Agency will be definitely what they are going to do based on their presentation earlier. For Uganda, as we presented earlier, there is a flood, a very severe flood in the country. This might go on. The water level might rise again further in Lake Victoria. Rotting of tubers might be post-harvest losses, and some disease outbreak might be expected. In terms of measures, releasing more water, particularly to flow out of the Victoria Lake, might be an option. People have been requested to move away from wetlands, which are likely to be flooded. Already activated weekly DRR platforms from the different sectors to mobilize resources
1 minute
to support displaced persons. Again, districts at high risk need to be identified, and early warning information needs to be intensified in those areas. For Somalia, this is not their season, but there is already a pre-existing impacts and preparations measures are already in place. So they are going to work to update that further. From the plenary, generally, there are some implications which are raised, which maybe you can read from here. But overall, I think I would like to conclude with this statement. Since most of the countries are already dealing with multiple disasters, and the situation might further aggravate, this needs to be expected with the enhanced drains. Add on that the COVID restrictions of movement would further complicate things, and countries need to upscale their interventions. Unfortunately, we didn't hear from Kenya again, and Djibouti. If we get the reports, we'll be including it in this impact report from the disaster risk management sector. Thank you very much. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. And if there are any further comments, again, make use of the chat. Next, we'll have Andrew. Andrew doesn't have a presentation, but he'll give a verbal report on the conflict discussions. Andrew. Andrew.
Me? Hello. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Linda. We were not able to put together the report because of time, but we'll have our submissions summarized into in the written report, final written report. Basically, what we see is that, or what we observe, that there's going to be a merge between the MAM season and the JJA season when we look at the onset, because it appears that the onsets, some onsets are going to be in May, June. So we're going to have a prolonged season. So what does that mean? It basically means that some of our conflict corridors, inclusive of the Uganda, Kenya, South Sudan corridor, we are going to have reduced incidents of conflict, because then we are going to have more enhanced pasture, more enhanced water resources in these areas. But what we might see is internal conflicts, because even with coming with the rains would be probably incidents of livestock disease, and there will be loss and deaths of animals, and so there will be need for restocking, and this might happen through thefts. Normally, it happens through thefts, but overall, we foresee a reduction in the cross-border incidences, conflict incidences, of course, coupled with the COVID containment measures. And then going beyond the June season, the June month, July, August, we're probably seeing reduced disasters, and then reduced sentiments, because like we mentioned as some of the impacts of the MAM, the heightened effects of the disaster is that it generates emotions, and it generates sentiments among the affected communities. And then if interventions are not done effectively, if they are not done in a timely manner, they generate this kind of sentiments of marginalization among these communities. And then usually these conflict instigators normally take advantage of this. So we'll see a reduced situation on this. So we'll be monitoring that during the JJA season. Probably the COVID might affect the activities of the peace committees, because the peace committees, these are the structures that we use to try and mitigate conflict. Local peace committees, cross-border peace committees. Now, the mode of engagement of these committees is definitely affected by IGAD. They are not able to, or they don't have the resources that we have to engage in this kind of meetings, virtual meetings. It has to be contact meetings. Now, this is affected by containment measures, social distancing, and then reduction of social contact. So it might affect the, some of the preventive measures that would have wanted to establish, or even the capacity building that would wanted to establish among these committees. So basically, all in all, we foresee a continuation of, the MAM season going into the JJA season and probably dissipating towards September, August, August, September, and October. So we'll have reduced cross-border incidents. We might have more internal incidents. We'll also have reduced sentiments against authorities, and probably we don't really expect so much in terms of a conflict during this season. What we shall do is probably put together this report and then share it in the final report when we're able to, because we're not able to have adequate time to put together all these reports. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and for saving us some time as well. Our last presentation is from the climate group. Sabiti, if we can hear from Sabiti. Dr. Sabiti, please.
Yeah, I'm trying to share screen. I don't know whether I have those privileges yet, but that's what I'm doing right now. Good afternoon, everyone. I will present on behalf of the climate change group. I hope you can see the slides. So what we deliberated on are impacts that are climate change related, which are not actually different from the ones that have been highlighted in many sectors. But in terms of response strategies, we want to highlight the medium term to longer term, as opposed to the one that are really targeting the impacts for the coming season. So I can't see how to move forward, but the participants came from Djibouti, Uganda, Somalia, and the other member states. We had some participants from ICPAC and also other institutions and the partners, including the DFID, University of Leeds, WMO, and so on. The key issues we deliberated included, but not limited to these ones, of course, significant impacts that are expected in the countries as a result of changing climate conditions. And this has covered most of our discussion in this GHACOF, ongoing interventions in the countries, and then policies that are in place in countries to address climate change and its impacts. So it came out in terms of impacts. There is increased the risk of flooding. That is actually the topic for these seasons that we are in and the next season because of above normal rainfall, landslides, crop losses, internal population displacements, but also frost, as one of the participants indicated that Kenya might not actually receive a lot of rain this season because JJAS is not a major season in Kenya, but tea growing areas might experience frost due to cool temperatures. There are also issues to do with pests and diseases, as we have been discussing, the desert locusts and so on. So it came out that planning needs to be robust to address unprecedented extreme events, not just maybe weather, different weather of the same type as we are saying above normal. There are some thresholds that once exceeded, disasters really emerge, and that is what is being addressed. So going through what the country's reflections were in terms of the interventions in the countries, Somalia highlighted that there are efforts being done to promote integrated water resource management, and then sustainable water for agro-pastoralists. And that is in line with whether we continue getting the more rain, but we expect there will be a period of drought. And then from Sudan, they are actually revising their national retirement contributions. And this is the case for most of the member states, because the year 2020 was for revision of the national retirement contribution, where they are actually the main intervention that target key climate aspects like adaptive capacity in the countries, and also undertaking some mitigation actions. And also there are NAPs, the national adaptation plans, which are being finalized in the different countries, and this will point to areas where investment will be done. And also in terms of the interventions at the local level, it was pointed out that in Sudan, there is construction of dikes to reduce impacts from riverine flooding. And these are key things that can be emulated by other member states in terms of best practices. From Kenya, it came out that mitigation of climate change is sectoral. Different sectors are undertaking different activities. For example, in the forestry sector, there's a target of 10% forest cover by 2020. Also the energy sector, there are technologies which promote use of efficient stoves, just to ensure that the environmental degradation does not continue unattended. So this is a question of restoration of the environment. And also in terms of flooding within urban areas that disrupt transport, there is, I think, efforts within the transport sector to ensure that the infrastructure is upgraded, but also the transport system is improved. Agriculture, climate smart agriculture. There's a lot of rehabilitation of water catchment areas, swamps, and so on. And also upgrading of drainage infrastructure within urban areas. Definitely there are key challenges which were discussed, but these I think they are well known to most of us, starting from lack of data, financial constraints, duplication of projects, and also taking this information to grassroots sometimes is a challenge. Resources being invested in the peace process, for example, for Sudan, create constraints for undertaking climate-related activities. So there was also a point on coordination between the national and the sub-national scales, and also the issues of COVID, which have slowed down actually any efforts towards addressing the medium term to long term, because funds and the all discussion is now being extended towards fighting COVID. Uganda, yeah, maybe 1 minute. Yeah, Uganda mentioned the aspect of lack of scaling up of projects, and this is something which is common in most areas, and also misinterpretation of climate and weather information. So Sudan also mentioned the aspect of technology, and then linking what is being done in terms of climate change intervention with the other development agendas like the Sustainable Development Goals, but also the national development plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sabiti. And thank you to all the presenters for a very good presentation with very minimal technical issues. So we thank you so much for that. I don't know, Dr. Philip, if we have time for some questions and answers, because I know we've gone beyond the time that's been allocated to us, but there's some good discussions going on in the chat room on various questions and various answers.
Yes, Linda, we can take 2 burning questions so that we can see if participants ask questions and we respond to them online. Just
So
for 5 or 4 minutes.
Any burning questions so far? There's one by Dr. Caballo. I'm saying he's asking about to the medical specialists or other experts in epidemiology or viral diseases, and if the prolonged wet conditions expected in the next season could increase transmissions of COVID. So I don't know if Dr. Sang or anyone from the health sector can respond. And do we have any other burning questions? We can give one person with a burning question while we still wait for.
I can see Kepler's hand is up.
Can we enable Kefle? Kimotho, can you please?
Okay, thank you, Len and Philip, for giving the opportunity. Mine is just to express my appreciation to all the presenters, but at the same time to exceptionally to the water and energy group. They clearly stated the cooperation and working together with the DRM authorities at the country level. And I think I call on all other sectors as well. At the end of the day, we are talking about disasters of climate risks. It's very important to coordinate and work both as a regional and of course as the country levels with the DRM authorities for effective managing risks and responding to disasters, especially in the monitoring aspect and then the contingency planning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kefle. If I don't know if we're able to get a response from Sang on the question asked about the impact of health and the focus on COVID-19 in the next season. Well, I think while we still wait on that, I guess, Philip, I can hand back over to you.
Thank you very much, Linda, for that wonderful moderation of that session. I wish participants you could clap wherever you are seated to Linda. That's very good. Thank you for all sector heads and all the sectors for your participation. This has really been good, and sorry if you are harassed, you did not finish, it is because of time. Our time is far much spent. We want to get into the reading of statement and thereafter closing. Before I hand over to Zachary Adero to take us to the end, I just have a few things I want to pass across. The one is that you've been told by our media expert or communication expert, Marta, that decision bulletin will be shared. I want to also say that all these presentations plus the group discussion will be put together as we've been doing, and they will be shared. Everybody will get this one, so you don't have to be worried. We can also request that we normally have people signing up for ICPAC products. If you are interested in any of the products, please sign up and you'll automatically you'll get these products. We have quite a number of products we have for our stakeholders. So just sign up and then it will come to you. Then finally, you can also give us a feedback about this first virtual GHACOF through director at ICPAC or GHACOF at ICPAC.net. So if you do that, we will improve better in case we have another virtual meeting. So at this point in time, let me welcome Zachary Adero to take us towards the closing end. Thank you. Welcome, Zachary.
Thank you very much, Philip. Let's appreciate Philip for managing to facilitate this very well. Thank you very much also all participants. I think the first virtual forum was very successful. We are very happy for the outcome, and we think the next one maybe will be even better. We are going now to closing, and we will hand over to director to be able to read the statement, actually the press statement, and then you will close. Dr. Atan, if you can be able to go in, you can read your statement, and then you officially close the forum.
Thank you very much, Zachary. Thank you. Those of you who are seeing me for the first time in few months, you can see I have a really good afro. This is not back to the 70s. This is not the style. I didn't went to a barber for the last 2 months, so that's why I have a new afro. So let me read the statement, and then we'll do the closing. We have a really shortening the statement this time. Wet season expected across Eastern Africa. A wetter than usual rainy season is expected over Western and Central Sudan, Southwestern Ethiopia, Southeastern South Sudan, Western Kenya, Eastern and Central Uganda. The season is expected to start early in most farming area of the region. June to September is an important season for Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, and Uganda. A wetter than usual season is forecasted for Western and Central Sudan, Southwestern Ethiopia, Southeastern South Sudan, Western Kenya, Eastern and Central Uganda. The rest of the region is expected to receive the usual rainfall, average rainfall, except for a limited area of a coastal Somalia, where less than usual rain is expected. An early start of the rains is expected over Central and Southern Sudan, Central and Southeastern Ethiopia, South Sudan, Southern Eritrea, and Western Kenya, where a delayed start of the rains is expected in Eastern Somalia and Ethiopia, Djibouti, Northern Eritrea, Northern Sudan, and Uganda. A warmer than usual season is expected in Northern and Central Sudan, coastal parts of the region from Eritrea to Tanzania, Central Ethiopia, Burundi, Rwanda, and Western South Sudan. A colder than usual season is expected for central parts of the region, including Central and Eastern South Sudan, Western Ethiopia, and Lake Victoria Basin. Considering the ongoing simultaneous emergencies hitting the region, including floods, the desert locust invasion, and COVID-19 pandemic, regional and national authorities are encouraged to use the seasonal forecast to adjust contingency plans and to update them with 10 days and monthly forecasts provided by ICPA and the National Meteorological Service. Thank you very much. That's the statement. Now, usually the closing for GHACOF is done by the PR, but this time we have a very unusual GHACOF, so I will do the closing. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all for the closing of a successful forum. The theme of the forum, Climate Services for Early Action, has been tackled extensively. Plenty of knowledge has been shared, even though this forum is unusual for an unusual time. That we have been able to do this at this time is a tribute to the human adaptability capacity. My hope is that GHACOF 56 we will be able to hold in the normal way. While the outlook Somebody's playing with my screen.
Now we can see you very well. We are seeing you. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you shouldn't touch the screen, because when you touch the screen, you're messing up my screen.
I don't know who's touching the screen.
So I don't know who's touching. While the outlook of the coming season is showing the likelihood of increased to near normal conditions for most part of the equatorial of the region, of the northern region, there is a likelihood of average rainfall. Some of the area in the equatorial sector have experienced repeated above average rainfall for the just ending season, the MAM season. Early warning must be tied to early action, something that we can really improve in our region is early action. And a study done by the National Institute of Building of Science in America, after looking at the results of 23 years of federally funded in mitigation grants, they found that for every $1 spent on hazard mitigation, the saving was $6 in disaster costs. Unfortunately, what makes the news are disasters, not averted disasters. So it's really sometimes tough to justify spending money on disaster mitigation, but it is a cost-effective way. Despite the improvements made in seasonal climate forecast and delivery of climate services in the Greater Horn of Africa region, there is still room and needs for further improvement. We're working on a better way to improve the exchanges of information between ICPAC and the users of climate informations to better tailor climate information for sector-specific, understandable, and decision-relevant information. And as you have seen from this GHACOF, our sectoral reports are improving. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your participation and contribution. And thank you to my colleagues from ICPAC for their dedication and hard work for organizing this meeting. It wasn't easy to organize, and we're not even sure we'll hold this meeting 4 weeks ago. Congratulations. Can you give a big clap to the organizers? They have shown their usual professionalism in managing the event, even though it is the first time we did an online event like this. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate. To all our partners, African Development Bank, World Bank, European Union, UK DFID, WISER, we appreciate your continued support and look forward to an even stronger collaboration. I would also like to thank you all the presenters and repertoires and chairs of the various sessions, as well as the delegates for your active participation. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll announce the venue, if it will be live or on Zoom, and the exact date of GHACOF 56 after consultation with the region PRs are concluded. Thank you very much. And with those few words, let me say that the GHACOF 55 is officially closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. Thank you very much for closing the forum. However, we forgot to take the photograph, and I would like to hand over to Philip to organize us to take the photograph.
Thank you very much, Zachary, the director, for the closing. We want to take a group photo. It is possible to take a group photo through this virtual means. So Kimotho is going to take us to plenary, but before we go there, one requirement is needed. For you to appear in the group photo, you must put on video so that you can see your face. So please let everybody put on. Kimotho will enable you to put on your video or your photo, your thumbnail. Yeah, if it is there, then you will appear. So Kimotho, take us through and take the photo, then you dismiss, Zachary will dismiss us.
Philip.
Yes.
I want to be, I actually sent you an upgrade to host because coincidentally, I just went out of power. So I was hoping that you'd facilitate that, but I can try, but just know that I'm in darkness. I hope we can accomplish this in the shortest time possible.
Just try if you can. If you cannot, then we'll do it another time.
Yes.
So whoever is sharing the screen, okay?
So this is the best we can do for now.
Okay, Beldrin, Nick Park, okay, thank you. James Sang, can you put on screen? We want to take a group photo.
Unfortunately, we can't fit everyone here. But
no,
we'll
as
try.
long as they are on, just take. You will take everybody. All the 7 pages will be taken.
Okay.
James Sang, Tedese Katech. Just take all the 7 will be taken as a photo. So Itham Abdin, okay, you are on. Who is not on? I can see Julia. Can you be on? Julia Kenywa, you will be left out. Zachary Adero, you are still not on. We want your photo. Thank you. Thank you. Kayoya, please. Hannah, you are delaying us. Put on your video. We want to take a photo.
Zachary, we don't see you.
Okay, because of time, others have not put on. Maybe they don't want to be seen. Kimotho, just click and it is done. Just take us.
Hold on.
If you're done, you tell us. Good, thank you very much, everybody. You look great people, thank you.
Not yet, Philip.
No, I'm just thanking them as you're setting. You will tell us if you're done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you done?
No, not yet, I'm not done.
At least smile.
Wonderful.
Smile.
Wawira, sit down. Oh, you're going to the wall. This is a new experience.
Yeah, it's a new experience.
We should have done during the break, actually.
We were racing against time, so this is the best time when we've everything done.
Kimotho, where you are?
There's something happening because I don't have power.
Okay, in recording, we have the photo, so don't worry. We have the group, we'll put it together and have it in a report. Thank you very much. Zachary, if you have any announcement and then tell us to leave, we'll appreciate.
Thank you very much. I think this is to thank everybody who managed to participate in this virtual forum. I think we can call it that already the director has closed. We only pause to take the photographs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.